Shao Kahn is the boss of Mortal Kombat. Yeah, there's been quite a few bosses over the years, but when we're talking the iconic Big Bad, I think most people would agree that Shao Kahn takes that spot. In the world of competitive and high level though, Shao Kahn has had a strange journey. He's not been properly playable in a competitive sense that often, although he's had quite a few appearances. His split of banned and legal representation has almost been straight down the middle, 50-50. And there's a few reasons for that. Reasons I can't wait to dive into for this edition of Competitive History. That said, strap yourselves in because this episode is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to start this video by listing this section as the classic Shao Kahn, because this version of the character is very much the boss character, and it applies to 16-bit Ultimate MK3, where he had to be unlocked via a special code that made him playable in the two-player versus mode, and the version I think most people would be familiar with, which is Trilogy, the N64 version and the PlayStation, PC, and Saturn versions being different games, but Shao Kahn is in both of them. Boss Shao Kahn has all the moves you absolutely hated as a kid. Shoulder charge, up shoulder charge, hammer strike, his sarcastic taunts, and his projectile. But in Trilogy, he also had some extra moves like a grab attack and even an uppercut. He doesn't have many new moves, but I guess they're there to make him feel a little more like an actual character. He can even jump, and God, does it look stupid. There's very little to talk about with Shao Kahn's gameplay because he was completely and utterly banned. Boss characters were unbelievable in Trilogy anyway, even with the PlayStation, PC, and Saturn versions having more of them. But Shao Kahn was broken for many reasons, and let's just list them off. Shao cannot be grabbed. You couldn't grab him in the arcade, so why would that change here? His walk speed is ridiculous, some of the fastest you'll ever see in classic Mortal Kombat, made better by the fact that his long-reaching buttons like shoulder charge or even his basic kick are fast to come out, and the kick especially has fast recovery too. He's got damage without even trying. Almost every attack does that infamous 20% or so on hit, just like the boss version you fight at the end of the tower. And under the right circumstances, he can very much combo them together, mostly when an opponent is airborne and stuff. Now, not all of it is practical, but I've seen some rather outrageous combo videos, I can tell you that much. Shao Kahn is immune to certain moves completely. You can't lift him with Ermac, for example. Couple this immunity with the fact that he has more health than other characters, he's even harder to get damage against than everybody else. Look, this is all mad broken, and of course, Shao Kahn isn't a competitively legal character. But it's fine, he's straight up a boss character that you can play as for the fun of it. If you grew up with Trilogy as a kid, you probably use Shao Kahn or one of the other bosses to beat an arcade run or two just to get revenge on the cheap move-reading AI. I know I did. From Trilogy to Deception, there would be some considerable time until Shao Kahn was seen in-game again. Almost 10 years, actually. The thing is, if you're watching this video and you played Deception on the PS2 or original Xbox, you know, the more commonly played versions, I suppose, especially because they had online, you'd be forgiven for immediately thinking, hang on a minute, I don't remember Shao Kahn being in this game. And you're right, Shao Kahn isn't playable on the original versions of MK Deception. It was the GameCube version that added Shao Kahn and Goro, but it was supposedly only released in North America, and then the PSP version of MK Unchained that added these two along with a few more characters from Deadly Alliance, and that one launched in other parts of the world too, so at least there's that. For all the Shao Kahn fans out there that were dying to play him in a proper game again with his own moves and his own game plan, this wasn't the game for you. Shao Kahn is tragically said by many to be the absolute worst character in MK Deception. He sucks. And it's very sad because this was his first non-boss character appearance too. Remember, Onaga was the boss of this one. He's got a decent amount of specials here and almost all of his old ones. The projectile is back, and it's got good damage, but it's very much just your standard projectile in 3D. His up shoulder is now a rising knee attack that launches. Shoulder charge is very fast, although unsafe. It's good for stuff like fast whiff punishes. Taunt is back, however, not only does it barely heal Shao Kahn, it's a long animation, and it seems to have this internal counter for how many times you can actually use it, so this is really a pointless tool. Finally, there is a new move called Emperor's Shield. It's super fast up close. The problem here is that although Shao Kahn has 2 hand-to-hand stances and his Wrath Hammer, he just doesn't have anything notable in terms of standalone buttons because he's so incredibly unsafe that a lot of these moves are a risk to use. Yeah, sure, he's got some launchers, I guess, but almost everyone does. His reward is regular, or in many cases, underwhelming damage, and with the unsafe nature of it all, it's just not good. All of his pokes feel slow and sluggish, even his low pokes, which in this game need to be decent for the poking game. He's got 1 OK down 3, and that's it. His down 1 and his down 2 in Hammer have OK range as well, I guess, but that's it. Now let's talk about the issues that actually do make Shao Kahn the worst character in the game. MK Deception is all about free throws, either the damage or the fact that some of them lead to OTG, sometimes infinites. Shao Kahn's throw is bugged, and it does a measly 5 damage. The second hit does 0 damage. That's the one that's meant to do the extra bit of damage, and it sends full screen. Now that's a major issue. His branch combo in hand-to-hand 1, which is a simple 2-hit, has a bad tendency to whiff often, leaving you open to punishment. His 1-1-3-3 in the second hand-to-hand also whiffs a lot, and so does the stance's 1-1 back 3, which is a low. Whiffing on hit, massively unsafe on block, and the weakest throw in the entire game makes Shao Kahn utterly pathetic in Mortal Kombat Deception. He's arguably one of the weakest MK characters of all time here, and that is incredibly disappointing for someone who was meant to be the big bad. Thankfully, he doesn't stay totally bottom of the barrel for very long, as with the release of MK Armageddon shortly after, and including a bunch of changes and additions for many of the returning characters already seen in Deadly Alliance or Deception, Shao Kahn received a bit of a rework in some ways. He has the same specials and weapon, but a new special move. His throw damage was fixed, and his hand-to-hand had a few changes that were definitely for the better. His new move is this strange choke attack, kind of reminiscent of what Ermac would get in later games, but I guess it does make sense because Shao Kahn is a user of magic in many ways, right? It's got good range, and when combined with shield and the other projectile, Shao Kahn has more options at a distance than he did in Deception, so we'll take that. The big difference in this game is what his hand-to-hand does. He just gets a bit more reward now than he did before. He can branch into some more stuff from his standing 1. His branch combo into weapon is 3 hits, and it sets up for a damaging juggle. On top of that, he has a new string in 1-1-2. And it doesn't look like much, but thanks to the final hit's short recovery, when used against a juggled opponent, you can actually pick up a charge, or a shield at the wall for more damage. It's not bad. The string does over 20% on its own too, so that's always a good thing. And the 3-hit branch into weapon launcher also does over 20% damage. Shao Kahn in Armageddon isn't exactly amazing. He's still got the issue with unsafe moves, and there really isn't a whole lot of mix-up potential. He's kind of slow too, but at least he gets more damage in this one. Shao Kahn is not a character that people talk about in Armageddon, and for good reason. He can hit quite hard, but he's not exactly a threat. If he gets a throw, it's back to full screen, and his ranged game, although better than Deception, it's still not all that apparent. He's not the absolute worst in the game, unlike Deception, but that's not really a testament to him being good here. He's just not the worst of the worst. He's still considered weak in comparison to the major hitters of Mortal Kombat Armageddon, because those characters are god tier. You know, the thing I always find funny about this character is that he's almost got a 50-50 split between banned, because he's a boss character, and being playable, because he's been toned down a bit. But amidst those playable appearances, he's only been considered good in one game, And that game is not what you think it is. I can't believe I have to debut this game at last, but it's time for Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. In this game, SHAO KAHN is a sub-boss, but he's fully playable and one that you have to unlock to play as. However, although he's not the absolute best character, he's stated in quite a few tier lists to be in the top 5, and I can see why. This version of SHAO KAHN is the powerhouse that we all wished that he'd be in other titles. And let's just go over what he can do, and importantly, what he can exploit. That's the real stuff. His projectile is decent, it does good damage, and it's fast, especially fast recovering. It's a nice tool to have, really. He's got his shoulder charge, which is lightning fast, and it's one of his main tools here. This has a pro move attached where you can get a second hit, which makes the charge do 18% damage. This charge can be done upwards with a different input as well, and we'll touch on the charge more shortly. He's got his up-close choke, which once again has a pro move attached for more damage. Emperor's Shield returns, and this is actually the last time that we'll see the attack in the games as of 2022. Who knows, maybe it will come back someday. Finally, he's got a Hammer Strike. This move will stun on hit, and it has pretty good range for what it is. Do not get hit by this, because it's going to lead to almost half of your life bar without breaker. In terms of buttons, his back 4 is a really good launcher, although back 2 launches as well. His 1-1 string is great for combos and staggers due to its fast recovery, and one of your main strings is 3-1-1, which again is used for combos, but also pressure. His up-close game isn't complicated, but it's really effective, and there's a few reasons for that. Firstly, plus frames on block. Now, this game isn't like MK9 and Beyond, where you can either check the forums for exact numbers, or, especially these days, go into the game itself and just see it in the training menu. You had way less to go by, but thankfully, MK old schooler Tom Brady wrote a thread on Test Your Might 12 years ago that listed the plus on block moves that characters had, and with SHAO, it's pretty much all of his important ones. SHAO Kahn's 1-1, back 4 launcher, and 3-1-1 are all advantage on block. And with the choke special that you can add on to the end of them for a little bit more chip damage and the fact that the move itself is barely minus anyway, it's a nice set of up-close tools. His down 1 is actually plus on block as well, but you need to do the MK vs DC specific tech of holding the sidestep button to make your down 1 recover faster. For some reason, that is just a thing that this game has. Having a fast recovering down 1 with SHAO KAHN is important for him because he's a big guy. This button has good reach for a single low poke. The biggest stuff that really makes SHAO KAHN what he is here is the constant threat of shoulder charge. Now, I don't mean just letting it go by itself at random. I mean, yeah, it's fast and it could catch people in neutral, but I'm talking about far more broken stuff. The meter system in MKDC is notoriously exploitable, one of which being the combo breaker, which was still very much in its infant stage back in these days, and if SHAO KAHN was grounded and hit a combo breaker for a single bar, he'd launch you into the air, but he'd actually recover from the animation before you hit the ground. Mid-screen, this meant that almost every single time he broke, he got a free shoulder charge off of the breaker. If you landed the second hit via a pro move, it was a free 18% damage that he got for you hitting him, and that is terrifying. If he breaks you near the wall, he can hit the back 4 launcher for a full combo. Now, comboing off breakers was far from SHAO KAHN specific. Green Lantern was the most notorious for that, but the fact that he got a charge off any breaker at all was a ridiculous plus to have. Shoulder charge was a guaranteed hit after a rage activation, as the activation knocks them up briefly. This one will be even scarier, as rage mode is arguably the most busted state in any Mortal Kombat ever. You get tons of armor, and your second hit on block will always be unblockable. SHAO KAHN can use this against the wall to infinitely loop his 3-4 string. If Hammer Strike is used after a launch, such as back 4 against the wall, the opponent's splat animation doesn't end the combo. His back 4 launcher will OTG and let you keep going. The damage of these wall combos is out of this world, and it's actually not as impractical as you'd think, because you only need a corner launch to pull it off. Oh yeah, and did I mention that although Shoulder Charge is a physical strike, you can't break it? You can break the pro move version, but not the standalone one for some reason. This character is pure brute force, but with good plus on block strings, amazing damage, the option to go against the mechanics of the game like breaker combos and super practical rage situations. SHAO KAHN is one of the scariest characters in the entire game, and you know what? It was about time! This version of SHAO makes you feel like a boss character, but without being too broken at the same time. He's an amazing character, but not Trilogy or MK9 busted. Which is funny, because guess where we're going next? With the revival of Mortal Kombat in 2011 came MK9. And as such, of course, SHAO KAHN was the main boss. Now, he was never playable. Ever. However, due to PC mods, we can at least take a look at final boss SHAO KAHN and see what the deal is. Anyone that grew up with this game probably struggled with Khan until you realized just how jump-overable he was, like all the bosses. But he's covered in armor, does tons of damage, and he can feel so cheap. Well, with a human behind the wheel, this gets even worse. Oh yeah, and before we start, yeah, he wasn't fully playable, but even if he was in a bonus character sense, he'd be banned, for sure. Shoulder Charge returns, and it is as you expect. Most of these moves are armored, by the way. Javelin Toss actually comes back, which is nice, as we hadn't seen this move since MK2, his original debut. The taunts are here, but it only serves as a means for the player to get a free hit. I mean, people needed something to do damage with early on. He's got regular old punches and kicks, and he actually has 2 throw directions, although AI SHAO never really used these. Up shoulder comes back, and this one is mad broken. I'll tell you why in a sec. Hammer Toss is an unblockable mid-projectile. This again is broken, and again, I'll say why in a second. SHAO KAHN is very much a boss character, so you can't do certain things that other characters can. You can't crouch, and you can't jump. But that's okay, because SHAO KAHN only needs to hit 2 specials to win the round. Up shoulder is an infinite if it's timed correctly. So is the Hammer Toss if it connects, as the plus frames on hit are so huge that you can just loop it over and over again. Thankfully, the AI doesn't do these, but if SHAO KAHN in this state was ever playable as a bonus character, these infinites would definitely be the only thing you'd see. And thankfully he isn't. A short jump into one of his appearances where, you know, it's not a standard appearance, but thanks to all the broken stuff that boss SHAO KAHN can do, I think it was worth a spot in this episode. The current final version of SHAO KAHN is in the latest game, MK11 no less. Now, SHAO KAHN has had a rather rocky road in this one, and if anyone watching plays or played MK11, you already know what I'm talking about. A character who was once seen as the absolute weakest, but at least, as of the final patch, now is far from the weakest, and has even been spotted around A/mid tier of late game tier lists. SHAO KAHN does actually retain a lot of classic gameplay here. His moves are more sophisticated, and to be honest, I actually really like him, both to play and especially to watch. He's just a lot of work at the highest level, and now let's just dive in, going over what works and what doesn't, which is often what the issue is for more average characters. Shoulder Charge is your main combo tool, as on Amplify, it launches. The double shoulder charge combos that you can do are expensive on the meter, but they hit extremely good practical damage. As of the Aftermath expansion, the second Amplify option, which used to just knock down, will now armor break and launch again. Great damage if it works, but at the highest level, it's not something that always works, as people will just wait for it and break the follow-up instead. SHAO KAHN has taunts in this game, and they actually give buffs or debuffs depending on what you use. The issue with the taunts is that they do take an exceptionally long time, even in the final patch. You don't see them often, and they're not really seen as practical for many players. Javelin Toss is Shao Kahn's projectile in this game, and I like it. It's a great way of bringing the move back. Hit enough of these, and Shao Kahn gets access to a crushing blow. Another universal move is Hammer Lunge, and this move is way better in the final patch than the early days. Now, it gives Kahn way more combo potential, and the amplify threat is always there, even on block. This move, creating new combo paths for Shao, is one of the reasons he does have more power than he used to. Shao Kahn also has this air throw, which is fast and is sometimes used as an anti-air in a pinch, or mostly just side-switching combo enders. Now there's a variation of this move that can be equipped, which is a spear strike. It will launch them on Amplify for more combos, and is actually another armor breaker, so breakaway on a good read can be very rewarding for this character. A major special that you'll see often is Annihilation. This move is a wonderful combo ender because of the damage and the speed, allowing Kahn to do tons of hits and still pick this up at the end. It goes hand in hand with another move where Shao Kahn summons one of his Shadow Priests. It will grant him a buff. However, this buff will allow Annihilation to meterlessly launch thanks to a KB. Now, Shao does have more moves at his disposal thanks to custom variations, but a rather common thing about MK11 is that many characters leave a lot of them unused. Competitive players don't see them to be all that useful. Now, you'll see players use the odd unpopular attack here and there, but it definitely isn't the norm. Shao Kahn as a character in MK11 is actually more about the base kit, in my opinion, and some standout examples that make the character really what he is. And that is a giant bully. Shao Kahn was one of the first characters that really showcased how good movement can be. If you have the block dash movement down to a T, you can wave dash across the screen in extremely fast fashion. This kind of movement is obviously tricky at first, but masters of the character make his movement look kind of unreal. Characters do have different speeds on this technique, and Shao Kahn was definitely one of the faster examples, definitely early on too. Shao Kahn standing 1 is actually +4 on block. It's also fast, and it hits high up, which makes it a really good anti-air. This is a button that Shao players use a lot, as you can stagger this standing 1 into more buttons, a throw. You're also good down 4, which once again is fast, it goes far and it's low to the ground. You'll sometimes see a Shao Kahn player get lots of mileage out of standing 1 into down 4 alone. Other notable buttons for Shao include things like forward 2, which reaches really far and it has extensions, his forward 3, which is a fast mid with extensions. The ability to cancel off of the second hit of this forward 3 string was given to him later. Previously, Shao players had to either commit or be in the matrix to single hit confirm it. An advantageous forward 4, a far-reaching and fast down 2. I mean, he actually has some really decent buttons, so in an ideal world, a top-level Shao Kahn is able to establish a super solid neutral and cash out huge damage for rewarding plays. The issue, on the other hand, tends to be that this character is difficult at the highest level due to just how flawless blockable he is. Now, Flawless Block is a unique to MK11 mechanic that involves pressing block at a certain time to engage a Flawless Block. In this state, you can do 2 different attacks, one of which is a launcher. Shao Kahn even now has many situations in attacks or strings where a Flawless Block is possible, and they tend to exist on his main pressure options on block. Against really good players, this is a huge risk, even if it's incredibly difficult to do consistently. It will obviously force a Shao Kahn player to mix up that offense quite a lot, but it's kind of similar to a MK11 Scarlet situation, where you need to know the kind of opponent you're facing, because if they don't flawless block, you can go pretty nuts, but if they do, you have to limit yourself a fair amount. When discussing final patch Shao Kahn, a lot of top players always refer to his damage output, because this is one of the scariest things that Shao can do. It probably is the scariest thing. He's got some of the highest practical damage in the game alongside other characters like Spawn, for instance, and he does boast slightly more health than most characters do as well. so he's bulkier with the ability to shred you down to nothing, especially if you're a 950 health character. He's got a lot of gimmicks and almost knowledge checks, but he has so many of them that he can be quite overwhelming to those that don't know the matchup so good. It's when you fight someone that does know the matchup that Shao Kahn can become an extremely risky pick. Now, he's not represented in tournaments by a massive degree, but there are specialists out there, or people that just pick him on occasion because they enjoy him. He is fun to play. There's a lot of Shao Kahn footage you can watch for MK11 that will show his gameplay better than I can describe, because he's quite complicated, and he has had an interesting story. He was talked about a lot early days because he was so weak, arguably the weakest character in the game, but now he's been given a lot of help in patches, especially the final one. He's just kind of there now. He's not top tier, but he's definitely better than he was. You'll often find him sitting around mid-tier, and when a Shao Kahn player does pop up, people still get excited for just how much damage this character can pull off. And that's it for Shao Kahn. I mean, to rewind and talk about his journey in competitive, he's been banned, broken, average, and sometimes straight up terrible. A weird journey for a boss character to have, but you're always going to run into challenges making a once boss character a regular member of a fighting game's roster, I suppose. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please let me know who you'd like to see in this next. I always love seeing just how many characters get requested here. Make sure to support my Patreon if you want to give extra support for my videos, and above all, take care. I'll see you next time.